Hi everyone, this is Dr. Clint Lanier, college assistant professor at New Mexico State University, and today we're going to talk about how proposals could be the most important documents you ever learn to write. Now, being a little bit sarcastic there, but these are very, very important, and let's talk about why. Why are proposals so important? Well, you see that absolutely everything you see around you, everything that was designed was probably the result of a proposal. Think about icons. Mount Rushmore, the Empire State Building, the Sydney Opera House. Those were all proposed by someone to someone else. Think about vehicles. Think about the original Corvette, the original Mustang, the Camaro, the T-Bird, the Volkswagen Bug. Think about all the modern versions of those. Those all came to be because somebody wrote a proposal. And think about structures, the Golden Gate Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Hoover Dam. Any other item you could think of. Think about any logos, any famous logos, the New Mexico State logo. Think about TV shows that you watch all the time, or videos or channels. Think about songs that you hear. Think about toys that you've played with, whatever. All of these were written as a result of a proposal. And more importantly, all of these proposals were accepted. So what will proposals do for you? They will get you a job. They can get you a raise. They will get you awarded a project. And they might get you married. Get it? Proposal? Okay, that was stupid, I agree. But in any case, proposals are very important. Will they get you a job? When you write a resume and a cover letter, you are essentially proposing that that company hire you. If you want to get a raise sometimes, you have to propose that they pay you more for what you're doing. You could get awarded a project. When you write a contract proposal, that's all you're doing. So proposals are going to be very important for you and for your future. Who writes these proposals? Well, subject matter experts are normally the lead writers of proposals written for potential project contracts or awards. Now, all of you guys are potential subject matter experts. What is a subject matter expert? Well, as the name implies, it is somebody who is an expert in a particular subject in the workspace. So if you are an electrical engineer, you are an expert in that particular subject matter in electrical engineering or whatever it happens to be. So all of you in your future workplaces will be called upon at some time to help write a proposal, or at least help prepare a proposal. Proposals have a very specific genre that we can talk about, which is a good thing. It's a very good and easy layout that we can come to understand. They have a front matter, they have an introduction, they talk about the current situation. They present a project plan. They go over the qualifications, the costs and the benefits of what is being proposed, the conclusion, and finally the back matter. So let's take a closer look at each of these sections. What does the front matter consist of? It consists of the title page, a table of contents, and the abstract. And the abstract is a complete synopsis of a document, okay? A lot of people think it's like the back cover of a book where you don't give away the ending. That's not what an abstract's for. An abstract, you should be able to get absolutely everything about a document from the abstract, okay? Now that's followed by the introduction. What does the introduction do? Well, it defines the subject, it states the purpose, it states the main points, it discusses the importance of that subject, it provides background information, and it forecasts the organization. And it does all of this in only 2 to 3 paragraphs. So not very long at all, but it crams a lot of very important information into it. The next is the current situation. There has to be a problem for a proposal to be created. The proposal is going to solve that problem. So what is the current situation? Define what the current problem or situation is. You have to discuss the causes of the problem. What caused it to be like that? You're giving some background information now. Discuss the effects of that problem if nothing is done. So if we decide not to accept your proposal and we decide to do nothing, what is going to result? Next, the next section is the project plan. Here you identify what your specific solution is. You state the objectives of your plan. What is it that you actually want to do? Describe the major and minor steps that you will have to implement in order to carry out your plan. And then finally, you identify the deliverables or the outcomes for your plan. In other words, what are you going to actually give to people to solve the problem and to finally carry through in your plan. The next section is the qualifications. These are the qualifications of you. You describe your personnel, your organization, and any previous experience you have. Things that you'll want to discuss is how long you have been doing this, what makes you guys better than another organization down the street. So say you're a construction company and you're proposing that you should be the ones that create this building or bridge or whatever it happens to be. Well, what makes you better than the other construction companies out there? Why should I hire you instead of somebody else? It could be because you've built 10 bridges just like this. It could be because all the structural engineers in the state of New Mexico that work on bridges work for your company. So discuss those qualifications. Next are the costs and benefits of the proposal that you are that you are soliciting here. So what is the specific breakdown of the solution cost? And finally, a breakdown of the solution benefits. Now, these should be in real terms, okay? So cost as much as possible is what is it actually going to cost me to carry out your proposal or to carry out your solution? And what are the actual benefits for this? And there's a lot of benefits if you think about it. It could save us money. It could save lives. It could save time, and time is money after all. And as much as possible, you want to relate all these things back down to money, because money is quantifiable, especially for an institution that is going to give you funds in order to carry out this proposal. Okay, and then finally, you end it with a conclusion. You want to restate the main point, say thank you, describe the next steps, and provide contact information. Okay, and then finally, you want to follow all that up with back matter. There might be references, and there probably should be references, especially if you're giving figures and numbers. You have to tell where that information comes from. There might also be appendices, so if you include a lot of images, say the blueprints or whatever, all that's going to be towards the end. So where do we start on proposals? The first part is to identify the problem. Now, this problem has to be a real problem. It has to be perceived by a large audience. I know a lot of people, a lot of students especially, in my past classes, when we talk about proposals, they'll come up with a problem that they face every day, say in their dorm or on campus or whatever, but it's not going to be faced by the majority of students on campus. So it has to be a problem that everybody recognizes. Take a problem now, gun violence in America, okay? That's a big problem. Everybody would agree it's a problem. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. People that are opposed to the Second Amendment or to people owning guns, and people that are pro Second Amendment, people that enjoy sportsmen, people that enjoy having guns. They would all agree that there's a lot of gun violence in the United States, so it's a real problem. Okay. Next thing you do is identify the facets of that problem. This is done through literature research. In other words, you want to find out, for example, where else has this problem occurred? What has caused this problem? What are the effects of this problem? What do people agree have led to this problem? Okay, and again, this is all done through research, and this is where a lot of your references are going to be, because obviously you're going to be referencing what other people say in this particular portion. Next, identify potential solutions. This is something that I like to tell students to do all the time. You know, oftentimes we jump to the solution that we want to do without thinking about other potential solutions out there. Well, that does a couple of things. It shows, especially in a proposal, it shows that we're not thinking about anything but our own. How could I trust you? How could I help you trust your solution if you haven't even given any thought to these other solutions? So you want to, in your proposal, you want to show, you know what, I've thought about these other proposals, or these other solutions rather, and this is why they won't work, okay? So understand the costs and benefits of different solutions. And then what you're showing the people that are reading this is you're showing them that you are choosing the best solution out of a whole multitude of potential solutions, okay? And again, you do this through literature search, you do this through interviews and so forth to collect data. Points to remember here. Proposals are persuasive documents as well as technical documents. The purpose is to sell something, not simply to show how much you know. In other words, the reader must be convinced that your solution is the best solution. And there are a variety of ways that you have to do that. Okay? You have to persuade them through your qualifications, for example. Show them that you're the best qualified. Do it through the solution that you pick and show that it's the best solution out of all the other potential solutions and so forth. So how do you persuade? You need to understand and match the reader's wants, needs, and desires for the solution. Do they want something inexpensive, for example? If that's what they want, then that's the argument you have to make. If your solution is not inexpensive, in other words, if it costs more than any of the other solutions out there, well, then that's the argument you're going to have to overcome, and that's the thing you want to focus on. Also, do they want something, or do they want something extremely efficient? Rather, think about this. A Toyota Prius costs more than a lot of other cars that get worse gas mileage. So why would I drive a Toyota Prius? Well, it's for the efficiency, right? For the fuel efficiency. It's a smaller car than a lot of other cars out there. So I'm obviously not driving it for that reason. So if that's what they want, then that's what you have to focus on. These two things, say the price or the efficiency, they're known as criteria, and that's something that you have to understand going into it. What is the criteria of the people who is going to be funding your proposal? Okay. Finally, once you understand this, you need to make an argument. You do it through two things: credibility and logic. Credibility. The first thing you do is demonstrate your credibility. You do this through showing that you've researched your proposed solution and the alternatives. Okay, so not just something that you've looked at, but other things as well. You also need to show that you are qualified to make the recommendation. So you accomplish through research, through expertise, through experience, you've done it yourself, and so forth. You can also cite experts, quote authorities on the subject, and discuss your own research. All these things build credibility and show that you are the right person to be implementing this solution. You can also do it through logic. You just demonstrate logic by proving your proposed recommendation will solve the problem. So A plus B equals C. It can be accomplished through various forms: induction, deduction, examples, and analogies. I'll let you look all these things up. But those are the two primary ways that you're going to help persuade your audience for your proposal, is through credibility and through logic.